Something arrived today that I've really wanted for ages, but it didn't feel like it made much sense. I'll show you what it is and then I'll tell you why. Let's get into this. It's this little guy. It's the Capture camera clip, and I think it's the newest one. If you don't have any clue what this is, it basically is a little clip that you can put on your backpack or maybe on your belt or something like that, and you can clip your camera to it. So it means that you can have really easy access to your camera. The problem has been for me, or at least my perceived problem, the reason I'd not got one before, apart from them being because it's Peak Design, it's a little bit of money. It's not super loads, but like 60 quid for something like that it's not super necessary. How much more difficult really is it to just kind of grab your camera out of your bag? But I really like the idea that you can have it on you and you don't really need a lens cap because it's not going to hit on anything. Like when you've got the microphone on top and you throw it in a bag and like the microphone gets all cranked and the cable, where the microphone plugs in might get a bit damaged or something like that because it's in and out of your bag. Shit like that happens all the time. I want my cameras, as much as I treat them badly, I want them to last. With this clip, everything's kind of out in the open. It's not being like thumped into your camera bag. Obviously, if you knock it, that's potentially going to damage it, but it is there. It's not going to get messed up by your bag basically, and you can just grab it really easily. The problem has been, or at least the problem that I thought, was the camera that I used for these kind of videos where I'm talking to the camera, where I'm taking it out and about, was this. It's the EOS R, which is not a particularly big camera. It's not massive, but it's big enough once I put a 16mm 16 to 35 lens on there, and the microphone that I used to use for this kind of stuff, which was the Deity D3 Pro. You've got a really hefty bit of gear. And it's not that I don't think the Peak Design can handle that, because I've seen the stuff that people put on it and it does look pretty sturdy. It's just the idea of having so much weight just there and like this huge bulk just there that just made me think, I don't think it would be that much use, because I just wouldn't want it there. Also, this camera's a lot more expensive, and because of that, it's not as easy or as quick for me to replace. Yes, it's insured, but the idea of breaking something like the A6300, I could go on eBay and get one of them pretty quick, pretty cheap, replace it, and things would be okay. If you've not seen that other video, I am actually getting rid of the EOS R because I want to switch to everything to Sony, and at the moment I'm sort of 2/3 Canon, 1/3 Sony, but I've got more Sony lenses. A bit of a messed up situation, but I honestly just prefer Sony after having the last 3 years be like predominantly Canon. So yeah, the camera clip, I actually finally went and got it because it will work really nicely with the setup that I'm using right here, which is the Sony A6300 with the Sony 10-18 stabilized lens and the Rode Video Micro. So it's a really compact little kit, which will sit quite nicely here. Also, sometimes I don't use the Rode Video Micro, I use the Rode Wireless Go, and I actually just use a bit of Blu Tack. So what I do is fix the receiver to the camera on the shoe. I can either clip the microphone onto me, or I clipped it on my helmet straps, for when I'm on my bike. And I've also, if I just want it to be on the camera, I just Blu Tack it onto the camera, and then you've got like an on-camera microphone basically. And that's really handy, and that's also a lot more low profile. You don't have the massive wind muff. I mean, it's not super massive compared to like one for a bigger shotgun mic, but the one that's on the Rode Video Micro, when it's here, it's still kind of in your way a little bit. Now, this is actually my first decent sized post-Amazon purchase. And funnily enough, so I got this from Wex, which is I think it's a British company. Got a shop, an actual physical shop, about half a kilometre from me, so it kind of feels better to be buying from them. gone in, I've got advice from them before. I do my rentals through them. They were actually about £10 cheaper than Amazon and £10 cheaper than buying it direct from Peak Design, which I always think's weird. I don't know. You'd think that buying straight from the manufacturer would be the best thing to do. I mean, this lady's got a massive DSLR on hers. This guy's rocking a Sony full frame one. This isn't an unboxing, this is more a look at, in this series of like downsizing from what isn't a particularly big camera. The EOS R isn't big in terms of other cameras of its style, but it is bigger than I feel like I need. There's another video that I'm working on at the moment, which is the sort of full frame versus APS-C, and can I get away with using APS-C for client work? Will anyone notice? Will anyone care? That sort of thing. This is just a little part of that. Basically, the idea is making it easier and making sure the gear isn't in my way. If you think about it like this, you've got your idea and you've got the end product, and in between that it's all sorts of stuff like how good are you at speaking, how good are you at communicating, how good are you at planning, how good are you at turning these ideas into the end thing. But then you've also got the equipment. How much, do you have enough equipment? Do you have too much equipment? Are you sort of stymied and stuck because you've got too much stuff and you don't know which to choose from? Or have you not got enough stuff? Or is the stuff you've got kind of cumbersome and it just takes a bit long and that makes you not do it? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to remove as many barriers between my idea and final concept. That's the goal anyway. It's tough because you end up making sacrifices. You end up not having a full frame camera. You end up with people perceive the equipment that you've got to be less. And honestly, I think if we put more time into concepts and storytelling and making a good video, making something that's interesting, whether that is a traditional story or whether that is just something that's beautiful, that is interesting, if we spent more time and more thought on that, then maybe we wouldn't think about gear so much. And I think the way the world is at the moment, not to like try and shoehorn that into it, but there's so many people who've got gear just like wasting away in their houses and stuff, and they're not able to go out and do anything with it. And they're kind of like, oh, I wish I could go out and do something with all this stuff that I've got. Well, maybe you shouldn't have got all that stuff. Maybe you should have spent more time making things before all this. I don't know. Two people who talk about this really well on YouTube and in the recent sort of past. So Darius Britt, D4 Darius, and Simon Cade from DSLR Guide. Both of them talk about having a camera system that you know and you use for years, and that is the best way to be able to create with something. The idea that not having 4K and not having like 10-bit results in like a worse product is kind of bullshit. That's my thoughts on the matter. I'm gonna leave it at that for now. I'm gonna film all the B-roll for this video now. So right, see you later.